Hey guys, Dan Heilman back with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about what happened yesterday. We had the FOMC meeting, and we've had a lot of dumps basically after this FOMC meeting. But why did we have this big dump today, especially after rates were cut and Jerome Powell announced quantitative easing? So we're going to talk about what is quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, why it matters, and what happened here. So, all right, very first thing, what is QE? So if we just pull up, quantitative easing, monetary policy tool where central bank buys large amounts of financial assets like government bonds to inject liquidity into the financial system and stimulate the economy. So everyone says, all right, all we need for altcoins to pump is quantitative easing. This is going to inject money into the economy that is directly going to go into your altcoins. So is there any logic behind that? Is that actually going to be what happens? We'll go back and kind of look at what happened last time. That we don't have a lot of history in injecting quantitative easing, stopping quantitative tightening. So quantitative tightening is when they're actually selling assets off the books of the Federal Reserve. Quantitative easing is when they're purchasing a lot of assets and they are putting money into the system, right? So increased money supply. Now, this does say that central bank pays for these assets by creating new money. This is not directly related to QE. QE is more about the balance sheet, and lowering interest rate usually happens also at this time. So if we just go to the chart, if you want to see this, you can go into TradingView and you can search WALCL. This is the total balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. Okay, so this is basically what quantitative tightening and quantitative easing is. So you can see here, this red line is when quantitative tightening has ended. So all that means is this number stops going down. Okay, so you can see that, and then now it went basically directly up. So last time this happened, quantitative tightening was stopped and it directly went into quantitative easing, which is when this goes up. Now there could be a period where we're doing basically neither. This did not happen. This went directly from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. But you can see we don't have a lot of history with this, right? So we kind of had a little bit of quantitative tightening here in 2012, and then we did a lot of quantitative easing, which is, another thing you can do is if you want to add M2 SL M2. So this is the M2 money supply. So what you can do is if you want to add this here, you can see this is directly money printing. But you can see money printing just kind of always happens, right? Because you can actually see right here, quantitative tightening was going down, right? So we're losing assets, but the M2 money supply is going up. Yeah, I know they're both blue. But that's kind of, so it doesn't directly mean that when quantitative tightening is happening that we're not printing money. But usually when quantitative easing is happening, we are printing money. You can see here, quantitative easing right here went directly up and the money supply went directly up. Okay, so you can see that here. Here's the money supply, and here is these assets here. Let's delete all these drawings here. Delete. Okay, so you can see that a little bit better if I kind of move it like this. So you can see here is the money supply, here's quantitative easing. Okay, so now what does that mean for assets? So if we go over here, I did add a little chart here, and we have Bitcoin on top, Ethereum on the bottom, and we have quantitative easing. So this back here is when we announced quantitative tightening to be ending. So when we announced it right here on July 31st at the FOMC in 2019, when quantitative tightening was announced to be stopped, he said, Jerome Powell, that we will be ending it on basically September 1st or September 2nd. And you can see what happened. We had 7 days of up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of like 9 days of up here, and then just ended up retracing that move completely on Bitcoin and going right back to where we were. And then when it started, we pumped again. Now, we just went kind of back down, and it was totally a different part in the cycle, right? So it was totally a different timing. So we really don't have a lot of data on this, because the other time it happened was, 2012. And Bitcoin was like Let's see here. What was the price of Bitcoin at this time? Probably something crazy. It was, $12. So I don't know. You're going to get a lot of. I don't know that you're going to get a lot of data from this, but you can see we did also end quantitative tightening right about here, and actually the price of Bitcoin went down. Now, Ethereum was like $1, so there's not a lot of. I guess I should, change this to like ETH USD and just look at like the total crypto index. Probably makes more sense here. What just happened? What just happened? Here we go. Okay, I guess now it's back here, so I guess that's not very useful, but yeah. Okay, so that's what we got going on here. There's not a lot of data. Now, another thing I can look at is let's just look at like the DJI, because this has a lot of historical data. So if we put this on the chart instead, and we look at last time here, what happened? So we ended quantitative tightening right here. We went into quantitative easing. What happened? So the Dow Jones Industrial Index went up about 13%, and it lasted quite a lot of time here. So this actually lasted for about 168 days. Okay, so we saw this, gives you kind of a better picture, right? So this is a big bucket of stocks, and they went up by a good amount. Again, what was the percentage? They went up for 15% over 169 days. And then, of course, we had COVID crash. So that's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like this chart would have just kept going like this. You can see like the line is pretty much the same. And this you can kind of just ignore, in my opinion. Kind of like a black swan event, which caused a big crash. And then, a large pump back to the norm. So I think you can kind of just ignore that, and you can just pretend that this was, the chart looking basically like this, right? It's basically the same exact slope here, same exact line. If you just kind of draw a channel, you can just kind of pretend that we did something like that. And you can probably just ignore this, and you can see this is when quantitative tightening happened. Now, COVID did probably spawn a little bit of this, right? Because you can see this quantitative easing started very heavily when COVID happened here. So you can see, boom, big spike there in quantitative easing, purchasing assets, injecting money into the economy. So then again, if we go back here, what happened when we go back further? Again, same thing. Quantitative easing started. We did have a little bit of a dump this time. So it seems like there's not a lot of consistent data. And usually when QE is happening, we're kind of going into recession. So a bit of mixed bag here. Basically is, are we going into a hard recession? Are we going into a soft recession? Are we going to really see a lot of pain in the labor market, etc.? So it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to QE, but I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, all right, all we need is QE and then we get alt season forever and up only. And we are, again, as I've mentioned many times, excuse me. We are getting towards the end of the cycle. As I said, I kind of predicted a top around here on 9/29. That's funny. That was pretty much the top, wasn't it? That was pretty much the top. Pretty close, a couple of days here. I predicted this a long time ago, but I predicted the price to be a lot higher. And we just really haven't got to... we haven't really got to any of the targets that I thought we'd hit. Now, another thing is we can add ITC into the crypto verse, invite only, Bitcoin, logarithmic regression band. What's the difference between these two? Yeah, there you go. So if we add the regression bands here, you can see we've always sold around the this red band here. We've always topped around there. And this, red top even shows that we have a lot higher. Now, the fair value, or basically like the cheap value for Bitcoin, is down here. And you can see that's really only down, not that much further. So if we do come down in the bear, let me see what the other one is. Let's see, ITC. It agrees pretty well with my, log chart that I've been drawing here. So if we do another one, what's this one right here? Oh yeah, there's the ribbon. Okay, yeah, let's look at that one. Okay, so here's the ribbon here. What do we got going on? So basically, all the time we've always kind of topped in, at least this kind of white range, and that's up at like 600, yeah, 600K. So we still have a lot of potential upside, even in the next couple months. I mean, monthly candles can happen quite quickly. So I still think that we're going to see some big numbers. Now, it all is kind of just waiting on kind of employment data and recessions. If people are fully, without jobs and we go into plunge into some deep recession, we're probably going to be canceled here for the bull market. But I don't think this is going to happen instantly. This is usually something that happens slowly. The markets were actually looking really good, and it was really surprising because if we go look at like Bitcoin dominance, when this happened yesterday. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so my throat's a little scratchy and irritated. You can see that Bitcoin dominance has basically been trading in this channel for a really long time now, basically since like September 22nd. Even you can kind of go back here. It was kind of above it, below it, and then it's kind of just hung out in here. So we hit the top of this at about 60.2%, and then we kind of flooded down. It was really interesting because and here's Bitcoin versus gold. It was really interesting because others did really well. So others is like a lot of smaller altcoins, right? So you can see others were doing really well. Yesterday, I had a bunch of trades open. I still have trades open on Bitunix, but we had a bunch of trades open, and like Fartcoin was like ripping, and Litecoin was like doing really well. If we go to like the 4-hour chart, you can see these were holding up really well. And it was funny because Ethereum was dumping, Bitcoin was dumping, but like other things like Solana were like pretty much held steady. DOT was doing really well yesterday. I mean, this was during was this during the speech? I think it was like right in here somewhere, right? So we had a couple, spikes down, and then it recovered really quickly. Neo, Fartcoin was doing insane. Like we had this huge breakout for Fartcoin that was like a 16% run. Of course, it hit this top resistance and then sold right back off. So altcoins were doing surprisingly well. Now, if we go let's go check it. I still have my leverage trades open. If you want to leverage trade, there's a link below for Bitunix. And I had a lot of leverage trades open. I closed some of them, but a lot of them are still in the profit. I added more to my Bitcoin position. My Litecoin position's been doing really well and just staying in the profit. I have an affiliate link below if you want to try it out. So yeah, feel free to use that. You get a nice discount on fees, but I have some leverage trades open. You can also just buy spot. You can do no KYC, all that good stuff. If you just want to sign up really quickly and start trading, it is really easy. But that's my favorite exchange to use, affiliate link below. And Fear and Greed is in fear, and FOMO Finder has hit panic and has been in at least uncertainty, if not panic, for a couple days now. So usually we see this near bottoms. If you kind of zoom in here, you can see we've seen a lot of the panic here, the purple. So this was kind of like 2 days of panic. We've had panic here, hit and miss all over. So this usually, when you have panic together with fear, it's usually a really good buying opportunity. I still think, we had a flush last night also while I was sleeping. I had an order down here that got picked up, and I added to my Bitcoin position. But I still think we're going to be going up in the next week here. I think we're going to be doing some progress on moving back towards all-time highs. Are we going to blast directly into all-time highs? I don't know. November is usually a good month for Bitcoin, and December. So I do expect these next couple months to be quite good. If we just go check real quick on Bitcoin, you can see that if we go to charts and we go to monthly returns and we go to Bitcoin, you can see October is now negative, and we have not had a lot of negative Octobers. Usually when we have a negative October, that either means that we've started the bear market, or we're going to see a nice little return in November. November has been historically a very good month. You can see average return is about 36%. Obviously there's plus or minus a lot of standard deviation. Oh, you can't see it. And if we check Ethereum, the other large altcoin, what do we got going on for October? We're pretty far negative. And, that could potentially mean we're somewhere here where we see, 60% gains, or, even that. But November, you can see, is pretty good as well. It's kind of like it's either really bad negative or really good positive. But I don't think the bear market started. Again, as I've said, as long as Bitcoin, when I go to Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin continues to close above this moving average right here, this red one down at 102,000, if we continue to close above this, we're in a bull market, and that's that. We do have the bull moon coming starting on November 5th. So this is usually a good indicator for, leading into a pump. So you can see we have been pumping into it, and I expect us to continue pumping. The only time this didn't play out was the last 2 times, actually. But other than that, it's played out a lot. And we also have the Camel Finance indicator saying that the low is probably in for Bitcoin at 103,600 on this exchange on Bitstamp. But the Camel Finance indicator has also said the low is pretty much in. Let's check Ethereum. Camel Finance indicator saying that we're probably looking for a low right now. We have not touched the bull market support band again, and we could do that for Ethereum. Again, Litecoin, it's looking for a low in this window as well. It could be this low right here at $84. And we are below the bull market support band, unfortunately, for Litecoin. We actually pumped on the ETF and then dumped right back down, which was unfortunate. But anyways, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Have a great day, everyone. Use that affiliate link below. It's the best way to support the channel. And that is it. See you guys.